Hopefully, you're going to learn something today. We've certainly learned a lot in the last 3 years. So Kevin Block, CTO Cisco, also responsible for getting us into agriculture, and what a journey it's been. It's been a 3-year journey. Just format for today, I'm going to just set some context. Then we're going to have Chris Hunt from Titan Class get up and explain the what, where, and the how of xDP. He's going to be accompanied by Justin from UNSW, so we've got some students who've been working with us as well. We're going to have Mark Ritchie, a farmer, also get up and talk about his experience, and then we'll have some Q&A. I think that's it, Chris? Yep. Cool. Okay, so Cisco and Titan Class. A lot of you would know who Cisco is, a global brand. We've been in business for about 30 years, big company, and very sort of strong in connectivity and networking around the world. People say 70, 80% of your internet traffic will go through our equipment somewhere in the world somehow. So very strong in that area, and also have been very focused in the top end of enterprise and government and financial sector and whatnot. And then along came agriculture. Now, interesting, when you think about agriculture, it is the least vested of all sectors. Somebody in Cisco said it's the last $1 trillion sector left for Cisco to go after, but it's very undervested in IT. And if you also look at Australia, when we opened our innovation center, we said we're going to focus in 2 sectors. One is mining, and we opened a center in Perth, and the second one was agriculture. So we really are trying to look at the strengths of Australia and see how we can develop technology to enhance our agricultural sector. So that's where we started quite a few years ago. So, but there's another agenda here, and that is combining a global brand like Cisco with some very smart engineering talent in this country. And really, that's what you're going to see today. On the left, the Cisco brand. On the right-hand side, Titan Class, who represents, and Chris himself, and he'd hate me to, he's a very modest sort of guy, but one of the best engineers, software developers I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Super smart. He'll give you a bit of his own background, 35 years in software development. And what an opportunity for Australia to leverage talent like that and then do something smart and hopefully export that. And that's where Cisco comes in, because we're in over 120 countries, and we'd love to help take that capability offshore. So that's kind of the essence of why we're here. The other nice thing about working with a very small company is niche, not so much niche, but fast and agile. And Cisco, it's very difficult to turn corners quickly, like this big tanker. So really good to work with very sort of smaller companies like Chris's, who can turn corners quickly and do things very quickly. Jeff Bezos, everybody heard of Jeff Bezos. Somebody once went up to him and they said, "So Jeff, there's so many changes going on in the world. What's the next change?" And he said, "You're asking the wrong question." He said, "What's not going to change? And let's focus on that." And I sort of, from that, put up this, because there are so many changes in the world, but one thing we do know is that the world is, the standard of living of the world is swelling. If you've been up into Asia at any time, in the last 20 years, you'll see how the standard of living has just blossomed, right? And what that means is not only is demand increasing, but demand is more demanding of food. And so this is a massive opportunity for Australia to really get into the technology of enabling agriculture and better food production. And I guess the thesis behind xDP, the platform that we're going to talk about, is that up until now, many farmers, now there are always exceptions, but most farming was really done from here, from the gut, right? What you're going to do with your farm and how you're going to do it, and the decisions. But we know from all the other industries that human beings, can only go so far with their brain. If we can digitize the physical world and move it into computers and leverage AI, we can start to do stuff that humans can't do. And that's the opportunity for the world, to leverage technology with the land in a way that we can improve productivity and make faster, better decisions. And that's really what xDP is about. It's a technology platform to enable that, better decisions. Let me explain that. So pharma, lots of physical assets, cuts across all forms of agriculture, whether it's the soil, whether it's livestock, cropping. Every farmer's got a lot of physical assets and over typically a very large geography. Now, farming's not completely in another world. There's a lot of technology that's flowing into agriculture, and there's a lot of people coming with point solutions to the farmer. But unfortunately, when you start combining that, what that leaves the farmer with is complexity. What do you do with power? What if I want to put that sensor 2 kilometers down the road? What about data? What about data security, data integrity? What about support? What about spares? A lot of issues when you consider the fact that this farm is actually a business, and there's a lot more to a business than one point solution. And by the way, what I'm explaining here is actually true to other sectors. One of the failures in IoT, the Internet of Things, is this siloed approach. So from the second part, obviously, that's, I guess, quite special to agriculture, is access, internet access, backhaul. And you can see here in Australia, where we have a very large geography, not everybody has NBN. In fact, not everybody has 3G or 4G where they need it. And even if they've got it to the farmhouse, step 1 kilometer down the road, and bingo, you're completely silent. And as we move into the other options, they become either expensive, or in the case of Sigfox, you need the cloud, so you need backhaul, so you can't use it. So there's a lot of issues for a farmer who might be sort of amazed by all the digital capabilities that there are in the world, but can't access them, period. If you look at Telstra, for example, with their footprint with mobile, it's about 30% of the Australian geography. 30% is mainly in metros and on highways. Not many farms there. So you can see why there's this wide open gap. And that's the gap that, in some cases, there's none. And the gap that we're aiming to address is exactly that one. With xDP, what we're doing is building one network. And Chris will talk to you about the type of wireless or wired medium that we can use to connect. But you build it once with one power supply. Any sensor. So Cisco's not in the business of sensors, Titan class. We're not in the business of sensors or the applications. This is where the ecosystem comes in. This is what we're trying to do today in terms of making you aware of what we're doing. Any application with any data, all on-farm, on-prem, owned by the farmer. And if we can do that, happy days for the farmer who can now access lots and lots of sensors through apps via his or her phone. Now, I just mentioned the internet. This will continue to operate even if there is no internet. Let's face it, the farm is a business. If that water tower is low, we don't need the internet to find that out. If that animal is sick, we don't need the internet to find that out. So we can operate with the air above the ground, which, by the way, we're using unlicensed spectrum, which means it's free to the farmer, and provide connectivity for that farmer to run his or her business without any internet access. Now, having said that, if we do, or if the farmer does have internet access, we can run some of the services that Chris will talk to you about, either on-prem or in the cloud. And by the way, you can choose whichever cloud you want. Okay, so really opening this up. We're providing this platform for others to really start adding value on the farm, okay, even without any internet access. So I want to tell you the story because it's very real. We went on a feedlot. This is about 6 months ago, up about 4 hours northwest of here. Lovely feedlot, and we've done a lot of work. We actually went with KPMG. And KPMG's role was really to work out what's the business case. What's the business case for doing this? And there was a really good, and Simon was there yesterday, good IoT festival yesterday. And I think a lot of IoT initiatives fail because A, they don't understand what the use case is, and B, don't work out the ROI. And step outside with KPMG, and that's exactly what they did. So we went, before we went in there, we were told, we're going to monitor these animals, and we'd done a lot of homework with smart collars, and we kind of put that in our back pocket, and then we were on this feedlot for a couple of days. And after, looking at the feedlot, and you can see here, the tank, major issue on feedlots is heat stress management. If any of these animals go into heat stress, that costs the farmer a huge amount in productivity, real dollars. The animal can go into heat stress just simply because of the temperature of the air, can go into heat stress because of the temperature in the water tank, right? And there's the grain that those animals are being fed. So this is basically a factory when you think about it. There's the weigh station. All of this is automated with RFID. The farmer goes into that device, plugs in his USB, downloads it. You see where I'm going with this in a minute? You can see all the different applications here for what we can measure, right? This is on the feedlot. This is where the farmer manufactures the grain. It's actually a little manufacturing plant, but no instrumentation at all. No instrumentation, right? Lots of machinery to now not just, grind the grain, and you can see it grinding there, but to mix the grain, make sure it's got the right moisture. So we walked in there with a thesis that says the number one use case was to measure the health of the animal. After 2 days with KPMG drilled down to 20 to 30 use cases. One was just measuring, for example, the temperature of the water in the tank, to the temperature in of the pen, the wind in the pen. Because if you can detect that ahead of time, you can start moving your animals around, okay? Over 20 use cases. But that wasn't enough. The second thing they did was, per use case, worked out a return on investment. So turn all this technology, xDP, sensors, etc., into dollars and cents. What's the return on investment for this particular farmer? Now, this farmer had 3,000 head of cattle on that feedlot. Turned out, just in summary, I can't give you the exact numbers, but all up, everything paid at a return on investment well in advance of 12 months. So after a year, the farmer's way in front. So the moral of that story is that KPMG and us determined that there were at least 20 use cases. Now, those use cases, as I said, range from measuring water flow, temperature, air, wind, the well-being of the animal, and a whole bunch of other metrics that we can get from the manufacturing plant as well, that could all be collected for the farmer to run a better business, an optimized business, right? But if I'd gone in there with what was in our back pocket, I probably would have had a very short conversation. But the beauty of xDP was that we can actually understand the use case from the farmer. What really is the pain point from the farmer's perspective, rank them in priority, cost them in ROI, and present a business case that is very difficult to argue with. It's his ROI. It's his use case. It's his business, right? Very personalized. And the beauty of xDP was we can chop and change what is the metric that we're trying to measure, what is the sensor that we need, what is the application, using the same one network, one platform, one set of data. So today, what we're all about is not trying to build xDP. We're taking care of that with Titan Class. Today is all about developing an ecosystem of Agtech developers, people already in Agtech, and or people who want to get into Agtech, to open up this platform so that we in Australia start developing an Agtech ecosystem that not only can we leverage in Australia, but Cisco and partners can take offshore. Benefit to the Agtech developer is stick to your lane, do it really, really well, and together, right, we can go offshore. Now, I'm an engineer. I love physics. For those of you who don't know, momentum equals mass times velocity. Why am I sharing that with you? Because Cisco has been doing this for many, many years, and we want to do it again here with you, right? If there was just Cisco with a velocity, we'd have a momentum of 1. But as we start building up more and more mass, more and more of you, with the same velocity, you're building up more and more momentum, not only in Australia, but around the world. And that's kind of what we're trying to develop using this platforming. So with that, I'm going to say thank you, and now hand over to Chris, who's going to give you the what, where, and how of xDP. There you go. Thanks very much. I'll help you.